So there was some folks from the country. I'm from the country, so I'll talk about people from the country. Folks from the country never been to the big city, never been to a play. And so had some relatives in the big city, and they said, hey, why don't you come in town? You know, we've always wanted to go one of those plays, one of those theaters where they live performances. He said, you know what? We've got one in town. We've got a performance that's going on tonight. I can't go. I got something else, but I got some tickets. Let me give it to you. I want you to go. You'll love it. They said, great. So they went. So they got back home, and their friend joined them back there at home and said, well, how'd you like about it? He said, well, it was very good. He said, didn't you just love the part to where the hero beat up the bad guy? Wasn't that just exciting to see him suddenly take over and beat up that bad guy and walk away with the woman that had been tied up too? And wasn't that a great scene? And they said, I didn't see that. What do you mean you didn't see that? Well, what about the part at the end? Oh, this is my favorite. What about the part at the end where the big dance number where they had there all the lights and then the hero come riding in on a horse? Man, now now that's a way to end that stuff. Did you like that? They said, we didn't see it. What do you mean you didn't see it? That's one of the biggest parts of you couldn't miss that. They said, well, what part do you remember about it? Well, there was right there at the end where the hero got all tied up and they locked him up there, and all of a sudden stage went dark and the curtains closed. And so we got up and left. He says, you got up and left? Well, wasn't that the end of it? He says, no, that wasn't the end of it. That was the end of Act 1. You missed all of Act 2. We turn to somebody and say, don't leave now, it's not over. Come on, tell somebody, don't leave now, it's not over. Oh, you're not helping me. I thought I'd get some. Let me say it one more time. Don't leave now, it's not over. Act 2 is about to start. See, what the enemy wants you to do, he wants you to give up. He wants you to give up. He wants you to leave. He wants you to say, that's as bad as it is. Oh, and there's times in our life that it gets bad. Can I get an amen? There's times in our life that we go through stuff, we go through situations and difficulties in our life, and we say, how are we going to make this? How are we going to get it through? And it seems like the lights go dark and the curtain closes. And the devil whispers in your ear, it's all over. The devil wants you to quit. He wants you to give up, and that's exactly what he tried to do with Jesus. He tried to get Jesus to give up. He tempted him in the wilderness. Out at the very beginning of his ministry, he said, oh, we got to stop this right now. You need to give up. You don't need to go to the cross. You don't need to follow your mandate. Bow out to me, I'll give you. Turn these stones into bread. And he tempted him there. And then if that didn't work throughout his ministry, he tried everything all the way to the point of the cross and the tribulation of the cross. Because that's what the enemy will try to do. He'll try to stop you either by temptation or by tribulation. You're not helping me today. I'm going to say it one more time. The enemy will try to stop you by temptation or by tribulation. He'll either try to lure you into something to entrap you, or he'll try to destroy you by the problems and the difficulties and the challenges in our life. Has anybody gone through temptation? Has anybody gone through tribulation? And that's exactly what he tried to do to Jesus when Jesus went to the cross. And I'm hurrying today. When Jesus went to the cross, it describes it in Mark chapter 15. Of there, how they mocked Jesus, the trial, the fake trial, the kangaroo court. You read it there in Mark 15 of how they put the crown of thorns upon his head. They put that robe there and they mocked him. They put a stave in his hand. They spit upon him. They beat him. They mocked him. And I know the devil was trying to do everything he could to get the power of God to manifest in him. But Jesus took on the form of a servant, and he was willing to die, even death on the cross. It says in verse number 22 of Mark 15, it says, they brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, and I've been there, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. Now you need to understand what this was. When they would begin the execution process of crucifixion, which would last for hours. Sometimes they would hang up there for days. This was not a quick death. This was a slow, brutal death. And so what they would do is they would offer these prisoners at the beginning, they would offer them this wine that was mixed with myrrh. Now, this myrrh is not stuff that you smell. This is a strong intoxicant. This is 40 proof stuff. And they would give it to them and to basically numb them a little bit. They didn't want them to die real quick. They didn't want them going to shock. So basically, they would offer that to try to intoxicate them so that they wouldn't feel the full brunt and that the execution would last longer. It would be more of a public square, because not only was crucifixion for the punishment of the individual, but it was also a deterrent to society. We want you to see what we do to people who go against us. We want you to see how agonizing and how long this death is going to be. And so they offered that to Jesus, but the scripture says he did not take it. He didn't take it. He said, I don't want anything to numb me. I don't want anything to cloud me. I don't want anything to intoxicate me, that I'm not going to be able to fulfill the vision or the mission that God has placed me on. Because I'll tell you right now, friends, that the enemy will try to intoxicate you with the things of the world. He'll try to intoxicate you with the things of the world, not to take you out of your suffering, but to prolong your suffering. Come on, somebody ought to help me right now. You think you're escaping your pain, but you're really only increasing it. See, some of you, through the intoxication of this world, and you just name your favorite intoxicant. It may be something you drink, it may be something you smoke, it may be something you shoot, it may be something you sleep with, it may be something you buy, it may be something that you drive, it may be a boat that you get out. I don't know what your favorite intoxicant is. But the enemy will do that not to help you, but see, what you've done, when you take that intoxicant, you've been around a drunk, they basically checked out. Oh, they're there, but they're not all there. They've allowed the intoxicant to be the thing. And there's some of you that have checked out of your marriage. Oh, you're still there, but you checked out a long time ago. So, some of you have checked out of your relationship with God. Oh, you still come to church. You've taken the intoxicant of religion. I'm preaching good. And remember, the reason they offered that was not to stop their pain. Oh, okay, let me just get down where you live. So you're broke. You're busted and disgusted. You're upset and frustrated. You don't even have money to put gas in your car. But you got enough money to go down on the street corner and buy something to smoke. You got enough to buy that bottle. You got enough to find that person. That you can just become intoxicated and, boy, this will relieve it, this will do that. But see, here's the problem. Once you smoke that stuff, once you drink that stuff, once that high wears off, now guess what? Not only do you not have gas to put in your car, you don't have a car because somebody stole it while you were high. I'm telling you, the devil will promise to serve you, but in reality, he'll just more engulf you with the slavery of sin. Oh, come on, somebody. Has anybody been there? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And Jesus said, I'm not taking that. I'm not going to drink that. And I'll tell you right now, I know it's tough, but don't you give up. I know it's difficult, but don't you give in. Turn to somebody and tell them, don't leave now. It's not over. Tell them, don't leave now. It's not. Just before Jesus gave up his life, look what Jesus said, because this is the second time this happened. This is in John 19. It said, verse 28, later, knowing that everything had been finished so that the scriptures would be fulfilled, Jesus said, I'm thirsty. Now notice, at the beginning, they tried to give him some. He says, no. This time he says, I'm thirsty. A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on the stalk of hyssop, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. And one version talks about how he drank it. Wait a minute, I thought he wasn't going to drink. No, this is not the myrrh. This now is a whole different type of wine. The intoxicant has gone out. This is wine vinegar. How many like to take a big drink of wine vinegar? So they would keep that around because it was such a stimulant. So as the soldiers would get to the point that they were about to go to sleep because they'd been out there, sometimes they would drink a little bit of it. Or they would give it to the prisoner because the weight of what was going on was about to overtake them. They wanted now to prolong this as long as they could. So they would give them this wine vinegar. It's like smelling salts. You're about to go out and it would stun you back into it. And Jesus said, give me some of that. I want to stay awake. I don't want to miss any of this. I want to be sure that everything is done. I don't want to be intoxicated in this. I want to be sure that I fulfill the mission that God has set me on. Some of y'all need to be waking up. And guess who I am? I'm your wine vinegar today. I'm your bitter thing. I'm your thing that's going to wake you up and say, you better get back in the game. You've got a job to do. It was meant to stimulate, to awaken, so the prisoner wouldn't miss anything. Jesus said, I've got a job to do, and I'm going to finish it. I'm going to say it again. Don't give up. It's not over. Don't give up. It's not over. I know it's tough. I know you're being persecuted. But remember, this is just Act 1. I said, this is just Act 1, and Act 2 is on the way. Somebody may be doing you wrong right now. Somebody may be hurting you right now. Somebody may be messing with you right now. But you know what they're doing? They're just giving you material for your testimony. You need to look them in the face and you need to tell them, oh, you're going to show up in chapter 4 of my life. This right here, this is going to be in chapter 4, but this is not how my story is going to end. I'm telling you, tell somebody, it's not over. Don't leave now. You may be going through hell, but don't stop there. You keep on going through it. Act 2 is on the way. It says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7, but we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. We are hard-pressed on every side, but we are not crushed. Oh, somebody help the preacher right now. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but we are not destroyed. We always carry around in our body the death of Jesus so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. It is not over. Don't leave now. It's not over. You're going to go through some stuff, but go on through it. Now, I'm a thespian. I am. I'm a trained thespian. Before I went into ministry, I went to college on a thespian scholarship. Now, don't worry, I haven't come out of any closets or anything like that. A thespian is a person of the stage, an actor. And so I went to school on a drama scholarship before I went into the ministry. So I understand stagecraft. That's why I love being able to preach in a theater. I understand all this back here. That's what I was trained in. And I think God would give me a theater to preach from. And so I understand what goes on. I understand Act 1 and Act 2, there's a difference. Act 1 is usually where they're going to show you all the problems and the difficulties. They're going to show you the hero's going to get tied up and on the railroad tracks. They're going to present the problem to you. But then they're going to turn the lights down low, go to a blackout. They're going to shut the curtains. And if you're not careful, you think it's over, but no, hang on. Because during that short time of the blackout and the curtains close, the director is working behind the curtain. The director is rearranging the set. He's getting things ready now, not for the problem, but he's getting things ready now for the answer. Oh, I wish somebody could help me right now. See, some of y'all are in between Act 1 and Act 2 in your life. Oh, it's dark right now, and the curtain seems to have come down. But let me tell you, God is working behind the scenes. God has not given up. He's just moving some of the stuff around. He's getting ready for the next act. Come on, tell somebody, Act 2's about to start. Oh, God, I want to run and preach right now. See, you thought COVID was Act 1 and that was the end of it, didn't it? That ain't the end of it, honey. That ain't the end of it. We've got Act 2 that's about to start, and God's about to do something. See, the devil didn't understand this. He thought Act 1 was it. The devil took him to the cross, and the devil hung him there. He thought that he had won. He crucified Jesus. He put him in a borrowed tomb. But that was Act 1. Tell somebody, don't leave now. It's not over. Come on, tell somebody, don't leave now. It's not over. It got dark. The sun refused to shine. The devil thought that he had won. Tell somebody, don't leave now. It's not over. But this time the curtain was not closed. Something different happened. This time the curtain that separated the Holy of Holies in the temple, it wasn't closed. No, something different happened. This time that curtain was rent from top to bottom. Come on, tell somebody, don't leave now. It's not over. And on that first resurrection morning, in the darkness of death, hell, and the grave, a light began to shine. And it wasn't a curtain that came up. It was a stone that was rolled away. Oh, I wish I had that 11 o'clock crowd. They would have helped me today. They would help me today just a little bit. Tell somebody, don't leave now. It's not over. See, at the end of Act 1, he was beaten. At the end of Act 1, he was nailed to the cross. At the end of Act 1, he gave up his life and was placed in a borrowed tomb. But friends, that was Act 1, and Act 2 is about to begin. Jesus stepped out of that tomb conquering death, hell, and the grave. He's alive, and because he's alive, we're alive also. Don't leave now. Don't leave now. It's not over. Act 2 begins with the resurrection. Act 2 then goes on to the Great Commission, go into all the world and preach the gospel. Then Act 2, oh, this is the part I love, and I want Spielberg to do this. Then comes the explosion of the empowerment. In Acts chapter 1, verse number 8, he said, you'll receive power when the Holy Ghost comes upon you, and you'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem and to Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And it exploded, and the followers of Jesus turned their world upside down. I know it looks bad out there. I know everybody's talking about COVID. I know everybody's talking about shutting things down. But honey, I'm not living in Act 1 any longer. I'm living in Act 2. And I'm telling you, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the dead. And I'm telling you, the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells within us. Turn to somebody and say, don't leave now. It's not over. The reality is the story has not ended. It's not over. John 14:12, Jesus says, verily I tell you, whoever believes in me and will do the works that I have been doing, they will do even greater things than these, because I'm going to the Father. You didn't hear me. That's in this book. It's called the Bible. It's underneath your coffee table there with all the dust on it. Get it out. And this book records that Jesus said, you think I've done some stuff so far? And let me tell you, he did some stuff. Walked on water, opened blinded eyes. Made the lame to walk, raised the dead. Conquered death, hell, and the grave. But my Bible says that because I'm going to the Father, those of you who believe in me, you're going to do greater works. How many believe in Jesus today? How many followers of Jesus do we have? How many believe this book right here? That he said, no, you thought Act 1 was something? You thought I did something in Act 1? You wait till you see what I'm going to do through you in Act number 2. Okay, let me see if I can land this thing. It may be dark in your life right now. It may seem as the curtain has been pulled. You may see people getting up and leaving you all by yourself. But I want to declare to you, your story is not over. You're not seeing what's going on behind the curtain. You're not seeing what God is doing to get things ready for Act 2 of your life. Oh, I wish I could just bring a dozen of you up here. I just wish I could bring a dozen of you up here and let you tell your story of how the devil counted you out, How the devil said, that's it, it's over. That's the end of his story. He's on drugs, he's on alcohol, their marriage is a failure. They've lost everything. That's it, close the curtain. Story over. But you're going to tell me, oh yes, but behind that curtain, God was doing something in my life. And that wasn't the end of my story, because the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead was in me, and God brought me out of this thing. And now you're sitting in here in church today, and some of your homeboys saw you 2 or 3 years ago where you were today. They would say, what in the world? I thought his story was over. I thought he would be in prison. I thought she would be in a hospital. I thought she would have lost everything. But honey, they just saw Act 1. Act 2 is coming up. Tell somebody, don't leave now. It's not over. It's not over for your marriage. I don't care how dark it is, it's not over. It's not over for your kids. Some of you, the devil has told you, that's it, that's the end. That's the end of Act 1. Curtains closed, it's dark, that's it. Might as well go home. No, I'm sitting here because that curtain's about to open again. I don't know how long I got to sit here, but while I'm sitting here, I'm praying, because I know the director. I know the King of Kings. I know the Lord of Lords. I know he is working in their life. I may not be able to see it, but I know the power of prayer, and I'm not going to give up, and I'm not going to shut up, because I know if I sit here long enough, go get me another box of popcorn, I ain't leaving. Go get me another soda, I ain't leaving. I'm sitting here because in one time, in the fullness of time, at the right time, that curtain is going to be open, and I'm not going to see my son or my daughter or my grandkids all bound up by the power of darkness. I'm going to see them in the victory that Jesus has given them, because they've given their life to him. Come on, somebody help me right now. It's not over for your kids. It's not over for your marriage. It's not over for your ministry. This is Act 1, but there's Act 2 that's coming. Some of you have allowed the enemy to intoxicate you. You've allowed the enemy to intoxicate you with the things and the cares of this world. And you think somehow that's numbing you from the pain. No, it is just prolonging your pain. It's just prolonging your suffering. It's not helping you. Some of you have given up. Some of you have gotten up and you've left the theater. And you're going to miss out what God is wanting to do in your life. And some of you are still here, but really you're not all here. You're just going through the motions. My word to you today is don't leave now. Don't give up on your relationship with God. Don't give up on your marriage. Don't give up on what God has placed within your life. Don't give up on what God has told you. It's not over. God's got another act for your life. I don't care what's behind you. I don't care how bad it was. The victory is ahead of you if you'll just turn your life over to Jesus. Because in case you haven't heard it, my advice to you today is don't leave now. Don't leave now. It's not over. Bow your heads with me all over this place. When I was praying this morning about this, I really sensed, I don't have a name for it, I'll call it the spirit of giving up. It's gone dark in your life. The curtains have closed. The devil is telling you might as well leave, might as well give up, it's over. That's the way it ends, destruction and death. Because that's what the thief comes to do, to kill, to steal, and to destroy. And that's where the enemy wants you to stop it right there. And that may be Act 1 of your life, but there's Act 2 that's coming. And Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. Some of you have been intoxicated on the things of the world, and you know exactly. How's that working for you? Really, how's it working for you? As soon as you start waking up from the numb of whatever drug you take, and it could be anything, you see again how bad it is, and it's just, you got to do it again, and the enemy's encased you, enslaved you with that. I'm telling you, today is your day of freedom. If you've never accepted Jesus as your Savior, He died for you. He gave up His life for you. He suffered for you. That if you'd believe upon Him, then you can be saved today. You can start Act 2 in your life. But I can't make you stay. You got to decide for yourself. So I'm going to pray right now. And if that's you today and you say, Pastor, my relationship with God is not what it should be. I need Jesus in my life. If you've never accepted Him, today's your day. If you're hung up in Act 1, today's your day to begin Act 2. If you've allowed the things of this world, what people say, what people do, whatever you're in talk to, if you've allowed it to numb you and you say, I'm ready to come out of this thing, then when I get through praying in any of those areas, I won't embarrass you anyway. I just want you to raise a hand when I get through praying. By that signifying that you recognize that God's speaking to you today and you're hearing it. And you watch what God's about to do.